We are a little bit over time, but we've got time for a few questions. So has anyone got anything that comes to mind out of that, out of those three presentations? You can see afternoon TV come on. Certainly the Mal Wegner down there. Certainly the issue of people comes up quite a bit. I suppose we've tended to focus on the hard assets, but not so much on the soft assets. And Ross, obviously the management skill is important. Mike, having the people in there understanding the nature of the market they're in. Is there any insights there? Do you think there is ways to attract people into the industry? Or John, do you think the mining industry is going to cool off some of the challenges there when the investment phase stops and there's perhaps not as much very well paid employment in some of the regional areas? Is that, do you see those changes occurring or not?
I'll take the first step of that one. I remember, probably 10 years ago when I came back from Singapore to Australia. I'd go and visit my friends out in some of the more remote areas, and it was incredible at that time. It was quite buoyant then. How many young people were coming back to the farm and were saying, "This is where I want to be. This is my future." But that was 10 years ago, and I hoped at that point that, wow, that's something that I could come back to. And in fact, all my peers could come back to one day and be a part of that. I don't see so much of that these days. How do we turn it around? I think we've got to give people more opportunities. I see a lot of young kids that come through. I've produced beef for 30 years, and we all grow up together and do heifer shows, and we do all the courses attached to those. We go and do meat grading, we go and learn about the carcass, and then we get to a certain point. We go to university, we study agricultural courses, and then we get to the other end. We go, okay, where can we go? Okay, what can a meat specialist do? You can go in and grade beef. It means getting up at 3 a.m. and getting into a meatworks and doing his time. And then you go, okay, well, where can you take that? It's difficult to find that pathway through to the top. And for some, they think, oh, gee, that's just such a big labyrinth, and the probability of success, I just don't know. So we've got to open up the pathways, the career pathways for young people, so that they can see where they can end up. And whether that's in Australia or overseas, I think we should open as many pathways as possible. Because the more vision, the more forward-looking we can make our young people in their consideration of career in our industry, I think the better off we're going to be.
I think if you go into the universities and have a look, you will see that there's, in agricultural courses there is a predominance of girls. That's a really good thing. You've got to get used to the idea that this industry is now going to be full of girls. So you've got to make that work. Because the boys aren't applying, they want to do the harder work, but the girls are doing. If you want to do vet science, you've got a single boy that's a bit awkward with girls, get him into vet science. It's 90%. This is a paradigm that I think we will get over quite soon, and it's a really important one.
You're relying on basic biology.
One more point there, just following on what I said. I was speaking to some politicians in Singapore, Australian politicians, of a rural background in Singapore a couple of months ago, and they said, what do we have to do? What are the biggest things we have to keep an eye on? And the point I picked up on was culture. I said we've got to open up our culture and make it more international. We need to, and if the government can be a catalyst for this, very good. But if we can get the government to work with our big sandstone agribusiness companies to create pathways, to create scholarships, to do internships, sending younger kids out into global markets and getting that experience in a more outside Australia and bring that knowledge back and making our industries more richer in an experience context. I think that's also important. So the government's got a role, but also I think our corporate agribusinesses have a role to focus on this and to create the pathways, to create the scholarships, the internships, to bring the kids, the young people, I'm not that old sort, but I see it a bit like that. We need to encourage our big corporate agribusinesses to sponsor more of our young people so they can really see what a career in agribusiness can give them, which is actually quite a remarkable experience. There's a lot of people in this room that can attest to that, but the message is not getting out. So I think we need a partnership. The government's got a role, but corporate agribusiness, it's really a role for them ultimately, I believe.
And for me, I think it is an opportunity for educating urbanites who are not familiar with agriculture, that although they may not have lived in an agricultural region, nonetheless some of their knowledge or skill sets can be applied to agricultural industries. So I think agriculture has to be displayed in the media as providing job opportunities for those who may not be residing on the farm or managing a farm business, but nonetheless have skills or knowledge that have application in the agricultural sector, be it within the farm gate or beyond the farm gate. I think we need to draw on that much larger urban pool of people who no longer have a direct affiliation with farming.
Rick, you sent me the microphone and asked a question. But I was going to get the panel to talk a bit more about the way we might handle this training of people issue, which is clearly an important one. I mean, the universities that were training people in agricultural science and agricultural economics are mostly not doing that now. If we reflect on what's been happening in the past 2 days, we're at the front end, the sharp end of what's happening in farming businesses, and I guess that's the sort of stuff that future managers are going to need to be taught some way. It's probably not the sort of material that you'd probably expect to find in most farm management or agribusiness courses if they're actually being taught, and they're not being taught. So I wonder whether the panel have got any ideas about how we try and address this problem.
They're not rushing to volunteer, Mel.
It's obviously a very large question, Mel, but my view is that I suspect agricultural science, agricultural economics, those sort of disciplines are going to be increasingly specialised disciplines and therefore not amenable to being run as courses by many universities, given the way in which universities are funded. And therefore I think a lot of that human capital that must serve the agricultural sector is probably either going to need to be trained through public-private partnerships, or businesses are going to, as they currently do, take on a bigger role of in-house skilling and training those people, because that level of knowledge or skill is no longer being provided to them by tertiary providers.
It's a fairly sobering assessment. Marty?
This is probably a reflection more than anything, but the 2 days and the speakers have been fantastic. It's going to be very, very difficult to communicate. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. The 2 days have been really stimulating and interesting, and all the speakers have had some great points to make. But as John was talking before, I was thinking of an experience I had 2 years ago with a football side. Went back and started coaching with, started playing.
I want those sort of stories.
No. And what was really interesting was getting back and seeing young people enjoying their footy. And here's me, I'm now 58, but really enjoying, training and whatever. What I would like to suggest next year is maybe each one of us should bring along an under 25 to the conference next year to get the enthusiasm and to get the love that you guys have for this industry, because you can't tell someone that. They've got to experience that. And that's what I experienced with the kids playing footy again, or training with them. But just listening to you, it's a really important thing that I'm going to struggle going back to my workplace and try and communicate what I've learned the last 2 days. Thank you.
It's an interesting observation, I must admit. I know Marcelo's still here from Brazil. I was intrigued the number of farm businesses I visited in Brazil recently where the 18 to 25-year-old had been overseas studying in places like China, for example, picking up both the language and understanding the culture and that being part of their business training. So I think that's probably some of the suggestions John's been making. So yes, the idea that agriculture is a job in an isolated town with very little social interaction or services compared to the global picture is chalk and cheese, and I guess certainly younger people are much more interested in the global perspective rather than the back 40 acres or something that needs a stump pulled. You've got a question up there.
David Follinger from Charles Sturt University. Just a bit of an upper. We take over 120 undergraduate first-year students into ag science and agricultural business management every year. And they are quite keen. It would be less than a half of them are actually off farm. So we're getting a lot of students coming in from non-farm backgrounds that are really interested in agriculture. One of our big challenges is that when we look at the farm management sector, predominantly small to medium enterprises have real trouble taking those graduates on that are ready to be there but need a career pathway at that sort of management. So I think it'd be really useful to have a discussion with probably the larger corporates that are in a position to create some of those pathways, particularly for some international experience. So they have that hands-on experience after university to build the capability. Hands-on, and we've heard at this conference, is so fundamental to managing primary production systems.
All right, we've got one question down here.
Mike, Damien Scanlon, Grains Research Foundation, Queensland. This is, I guess, my opening to come in, Mike. Look, the foundation in Queensland really attacks this problem pretty savagely, I was going to say. So we're a foundation that looks after the sort of personal, professional development of young farmers in the grain industry, particularly with respect to grains R&D, research and development, setting their priorities. So in August this year, we take between 8 and 10 growers on a 10-day sort of knowledge and fact-finding tour. This year we're going to Texas. We're in that northern environment which grows summer crops, sorghum in particular, so we've got a particular focus. It's one of their high priorities. And for those of you who may or may not be aware, sorghum is about to make a really huge paradigm shift from being a pig feed or a chook feed, if you like, to a Chinese white lightning, basically a spirit. So, and you're going to see the change in values of sorghum, so you're going to change the whole farming system's going to get turned on its ear in the north in the next 5 to 10 years. One of the things the foundation sort of struggles with is getting sort of matching funds from industry in terms of building the capacity of these young farmers. And these young farmers, I said to Mick earlier, the group of 8 to 10 will probably manage assets of between $50 and $70 million. They're all under 45. They're all early adopters or near early adopters of technology. They're all IT savvy, and they all own smartphones. And they're the group. They're going to be quick on their feet, nimble, and pick up opportunities. But they need to brush shoulders with people with the knowledge that's in this room to see what their capabilities really are. Because at the moment, they're operationally excellent, but strategically they're probably missing a few gaps in terms of where their real long-term potential is. So that's all we do. Willing to take any offers of any support. Thanks, Mick.
Thanks. I think we have one final question over here before we break for afternoon tea.
money always a problem. Michael Schaefer, GPA, and I'm also on a committee with the Peter Waite Foundation, which is Peter Waite bequeathed an enormous gift to South Australia around research and development and a whole heap of things, and we raising money for to provide PhDs through the Waite and the university. Again, doing a lot of mentoring, trying to get people PhDs and other sorts of masters, those types of things, and then providing a pathway for them into agriculture. So, given that there's a lot of high-paid people here with plenty of money, see me or the Adelaide Union, if you want to put some money into the foundation, it'll be well worth your while. Thanks.
Been hijacked by promotions. We will break for afternoon tea. Just a couple of things. If you need to get a taxi, our next session will finish by 4:30. So if you need to get a taxi to the airport, could you please let Sally or Kylie know, and they will arrange a bevy of taxis at the front door to make sure you can get there. We will have a brief break for afternoon tea, and then we're going to have a final wind-up session with a panel consisting of a number of the members of our speaking panel and some others to just throw around some of the themes and conclusions out of the sessions over the last couple of days. So